Okay. Perfect. So yeah, so as I was saying, welcome everyone. So we are in the, I think it's the third or fourth BT Global Access Virtual Cafe. My name is Patricia. I'm the marketing director at BT Global Access. I'll be your moderator today. So yeah, so just for the background, we decided at BT Global Access to do this virtual cafe just to bring experts from immigration and education in Canada with potential prospective students here in Canada. So at least you have direct access to those experts and you can ask them questions. Today we'll go over the theme, how to come to Canada as a student. We'll have Nava, who is our immigration lawyer, and Usman, who is the CEO of BT Global Access, who will tell us more about the college application, like the school application. But just to give you a general idea, so if you want to come study in Canada, so BT Global Access is here to support you from A to Z in the process. So the first thing is to go on our website. I will put the link in the chat. So that's btglobalaccess.com/applications. You will find there a form that you have to fill. When you fill out the form, you will get all the information necessary to study your file, and then we'll review if everything is fine, and then we'll give you a call to make sure we understand what's your project, what type of studies you want to come study here in Canada. We'll give you a call with Usman and find a good program that suits your need, and then we'll apply on your behalf to the college or to the university. And once you get the letter of admission from the school, that's where we'll pass the whole file to our colleague Nava. So I will let Nava speak about the immigration process and give you a bit more of the background.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Patricia. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for being here as well, for listening. I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer in Toronto. I was a student myself. I immigrated to Canada as a student, so I have been through all of these stages. I'm born and raised in France, and I immigrated 10 years ago. Since 10 years to now, my law firm has been doing many study permits for people all over the world, including from Africa. So I will walk you through very briefly right now the big picture, what you can expect the steps to be. So number one is having an admission letter. So BT Global and Usman's team are here for that. Once you have the admission, you come to me and we do the study permit, the legal part of it. We submit the application, you come to Canada as a student, you graduate. After graduating, some people want to go back home, some people want to stay in Canada. So in order to stay in Canada, you may be eligible to obtain a work permit after graduation. If you study 1 year, you're going to obtain 1 year work permit. If you study 2 years or more, you're going to get 3 years work permit. And those that work experience that you will accumulate in Canada under that work permit is key if you want one day to obtain permanent residency of Canada. Okay, so that's pretty much the very big picture. Usman is going to talk about the admission process. And after that, I'm going to go into more details with regards to the visa application.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nava. Yeah, so today we'll do a bit more interactive. So I will ask both Usman and Nava some questions, and then they will give you the information. And then at the end, we will have 10 minutes for everybody to ask their questions. But during the time we are speaking, feel free to put in the chat some of the questions. And then I could either ask Usman and Nava, or you could ask the questions yourself at the end of the session. So yeah, so my first question for you, Usman, well, what are the documents that we need if we want to apply for a college or university in Canada?
All right, thank you very much, Patricia. Nava, it's great to see you, and all of you is great. as just Nava mentioned, I'm also a Gambian Canadian. I was one time an international student. So I find it very, very, very difficult to navigate the education system and the complex immigration system. So we established BT Global Access just for that purpose, to make sure that your international student journey to Canada and immigration is as smooth as possible. So that's the objective. So just to answer your question directly there, so the first thing that we look at as an organization is what we call DLI organization, what we call DLI, that's a designated learning institution. So these are schools that are accepted by either provincial government or territorial organization to host international students. So without that requirement, those schools are not eligible to bring international students. So the second thing that we look at is the qualification, whether you will be able to meet the admission requirement of that school. So usually, generally, I assume all of you are either from Africa, so, or partly West Africa. So what we are looking for is at least 5 credits, including English language in West African senior secondary school examination, including English. English is a key requirement for admission here in Canada. Of course, English and French, these are the 2 official language, but English or French must be passed if you want to get an admission into. And the second thing that we also look at is whether the course or the program that you wanted to study makes sense to the visa officer. Sometimes I can give you an example. Sometimes people, let's say, people come to us and then they study, let's say, engineering program, their entire school, high school, university, but they say they want to do business program through us. So sometimes when we look at their profile, we think so it doesn't make a lot of sense to in that program. So we also advise students making sure that the trajectory that they are taking make a lot of sense to that. So we also make sure we pay attention to the deadline. We're gonna make sure we apply on deadline. And if some of the school also require language requirement, some of the schools will ask you to do English language test. So we want to make sure that whether those requirements are met or not. But we take care of all those things before we definitely making sure we admit you into those programs as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Usman, for clarifying all of that. Another question that I have for you that a lot of students ask us, if they have like a degree or a diploma from a different country, do they have to translate it or have some type of equivalence? What's the process there?
Yeah, so as you just mentioned in the beginning, we go through a different process. The first thing that we do is what we call assessment. So we give you the form. It takes you like 5-10 minutes to fill out that form. So we're going to be asking some information about your education background, about your date of birth, about what you're planning to do. So we use that as sort of assessing whether what sort of programs or schools.
Yes. Sorry. This one. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes. So
then more of the writings.
This one. Oh,
okay. No, that's fine. Okay.
Find it.
History.
History.
But
You can unmute yourself, Usman. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yes, so we go through that process to see what program we think or school will be ideal for you. So usually most of the document credential application are usually applicable to universities, universities and master's program. Sometimes because they want to see that the education credential that you have back home is at the same standard with either Canadian high school or college program. So, but not all the schools definitely require that as well.
Okay, perfect. Another question that we get a lot as well is, what are the application deadline? Let's say someone is interested to come, right now we are February. If someone wants to come study in Canada in September or in January, when should they start the process, or when should they contact us? Like how long does it take basically? Like if you can give us a bit of the timeline there.
Yeah. So usually the timeline is like 1 year ahead of time. So for example, let's say we are in 2023, the admission will open in October, in like October 2022. The earliest that your colleges or university could give will be like in November for, let's say, following year September. So, but so as long as space is open, you can apply. However, what you have to pay attention to some of the most popular programs, like for example, nursing, engineering, or data analysis. These are very, very popular programs. They fill up very quickly. So when they fill up, most likely after February 1st, then you will have what they call equal assessment admission. So, but after that, after let's say February 1st, colleges and universities use what they call first come first serve basis. So it's gonna go till it's full, or whether it's what's called, or it is waitlisted. But the best thing will be to apply as early as the application process is open.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and yeah, another question. Yeah, so for people who want to come study in Canada, for a college or university, how much does it cost for a semester? It varies, I know, depending where you go, but approximately how much should people prepare? Yeah,
so that one, it depends on the program, the school, and the province that you choose. But however, you are looking at, based on Statistic Canada, you're looking at between 6,800 to 22,000 per year. So it depending on the program, the school, the province that you choose as well. So
that's Canadian dollars, right?
Yeah, that's Canadian dollars, yeah. But however, what you have to pay attention to, so we try, because sort of the profiles that we receive from the people, they're asking for like affordability, they're asking for access to university professors. So we pay attention to that to make sure we try our best as much as possible to be able to find you a school and the program that's in line with your budget and with your profile as well. But either way, it's still expensive.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and then after Nava will give us more details about some of the financial requirements. But last question I have for you regarding school application. Like, does the school provide accommodation? And if yes, how much is the accommodation on campus?
Yeah, so that you have two options. All major universities and colleges have on-campus application, on-campus accommodation for students. So either you want to stay with that, or you can also go outside of that. Like if you have relatives or you have parents, somebody that could, or you can privately rent accommodation outside. Yeah, so those are like two options that you have. So the cost will be around. It depends on so most likely university campuses are expensive compared to outside, because most of the time the accommodation come with what they call meal plan. So they'll be providing you breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So they all, however, they cost that. So you are looking at between, you can pay between let's say $400 to $900 for a single room. So if you're looking in a big city like Toronto, Montreal, or whatever, you're looking from $900 to $3,000. So that will depend on the city that you live, the neighborhood that you live in, and the age of the building that you actually live in. So that will depend on the area that you live in Canada.
Okay, perfect.
And in order for you to, like, if you want to, let's say, reduce that price, you could always share the room and accommodation with your friends or with somebody else that you know as well. So that would be an option for you. Yeah. And if that is the service that you're actually interested in, we have partnership with Home Service. So these are like Canadian families that would like to host international students who are in Canada. So we can link you up with them. And then we also have those opportunities, but those ones are available upon request.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah, there's different options in terms of accommodation. So yeah, when we discuss with all of you guys, I will give you the different options. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Usman, for clarifying and answering some of the questions that we receive a lot regarding school application. So I'm going to turn to Nava. I have quite a few questions regarding the legal aspects to get a study permit. We don't say student visa, it's study permit. I got
Correct.
that.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so one of the question that comes a lot is how long does it take between the start of the process, like the whole process to apply? How long does it take to get a visa?
Yeah, so there's different stages. First of all, you come to me once you have the admission letter. Once you have the admission letter, we have a meeting. I make sure that what is your story, where you want to go, and then I send you a list of documents. My job truly starts when I have the documents from you. So whether you submit it in 1 day or whether you submit it in 1 month depends on you. So usually it takes about a month to prepare and submit an application. Then it takes approximately 3 months to get an answer on the application.
Okay, perfect. And then, yeah, while we're talking about the student permit, one question we receive is like, what documents do they need to gather to apply for the student
All
permit?
your life. I want to see everything. Literally, I want to see your birth certificate, your passport, your national IDs, your family's passport and national IDs. I want to see your education, your transcripts, your diplomas, your work certificates, the money you have, very important. If your parents are sponsoring you, then are they working? Do they have properties? All of this, literally all your life. So be prepared. It's paper heavy. Any application in Canada requires a lot of documentation.
Exactly, and it's really, really important to gather like one thing I would say where we saw faster processing is like when you guys gathered all the documents as much as you can from the beginning, versus we start the process and then 2 months after you send one, 2 months after you send, it's going to take a very long time. So from the beginning, I will give you all the document that you need to prepare. And the faster you gather all those documents, the faster we can move on with the process. So that's something really important. Another question that we receive a lot, there's people who are married, have kids, so they ask us if they can come with their partner or their kids, and if they do, what type of visa the partner have.
So the answer is yes. If you are married, if you are in a common law relationship with someone, or if you have kids, they can come with you. The spouse will obtain a work permit that would allow them to work for whoever they want, wherever they want in Canada. And your children will get study permits. I don't advise it because bringing your family lessen the ties, the link that you have with your home country. So if on one end we do a study permit application that says to the government of Canada that you are only coming for 2 years, 1 year, 8 months, 3 years, and then you are supposed to go back to your home country, when you bring all your family with you, there is not so many ties or so many important ties that are left in your country. So the chances of approval kind of diminishes. So to answer the question, legally, yes, you definitely can include your spouse and your children. Whether you should or not is on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, perfect. Another question that I have for you, because I know it changed a lot over the past years and even months. Can students work while they study? And if they can work, can they work part-time, full-time? What's the...
Yes, they can. Legally now, since recently they are allowed to work full-time, I will never say to any student to work full-time. Because if later on you want to stay in Canada permanently, an immigration officer can say, well, you were on a study permit, but you were working full-time. So what were you? Were you an actual student or were you a worker? If you were a worker, then you were not supposed to work that much if you were saying that if we allowed you to come to Canada on a study permit. So to give an exact answer, I usually advise 25 hours, a maximum of work while you are studying, and full-time during school breaks. So summers, March break, anytime that you are not supposed to go to school, you are allowed to work full-time.
Okay, so this is good to know. This is news to me as well, because I thought that the government is tricky sometimes. I know they passed the law to allow students to work full time. So yeah, it's really we have to be mindful of.
We have a lot of gray areas in law, and that's one of them where you need to be mindful and at least be knowledgeable. If you have a long-term plan on maybe applying for permanent residency down the road.
Okay, perfect. Another question is, so what are the options when a student permit application gets rejected?
First of all, we need to understand if it's worth it to do anything. Maybe the refusal was reasonable. Was it because you didn't show enough proof of funds? Was it because whatever reason? Does it worth it for us to go back to the government and try to argue that the decision was unreasonable? Most of the time, it is unreasonable. So what we do is that we apply for reconsideration. So most of the countries have a Canadian visa office in your country that reviews the study permit applications. So we go back to that visa office and we say, officer, we believe that the decision on this application was unreasonable for reasons A, B, C, D. Please review the application again. This is called reconsideration. On average, it takes about 2 weeks to a month and a half to obtain an approval, a decision on that reconsideration. If we do not receive a decision, or if the decision is negative, meaning that the officer still believes that the decision of refusal was making sense, then the next step is to go to the federal court. So we go in front of a judge and we say, Judge, the decision was unreasonable. That's the process. Okay,
perfect. So it's good to know that you can still like have that option. It's not like, I was gonna say the end of the world, but like some people get discouraged. But yeah, that's why it's really important to work with an expert like you to know what are the other options when the first answer is no. So yeah, that's good. And my last question would be, so what are the change, like not what are the chance, but what the student need to do to increase the chance of approval from the get-go?
That's a very important question, because number one, it starts with the documents you provide us. So we do provide a very long list of documents, and many students think that just providing half of it is sufficient. But there is a reason why we may push some students to get us more documents, because it may lead to an approval or to a refusal. An application is not only based on one single document, it's based on the entire application package. So the more documents you can provide us, the higher the chances of approval. That's number one. Number two, it's important to have a good story. Why would someone from, let's say, Africa will want to suddenly come and study in Canada in this program, in this university or college? Why would you not choose to study in your home country? It has to make sense based on what you studied before, or what is your current or past work experiences in, and what is your long-term goals. So Usman already touched on this, and he said, if you studied engineering and tomorrow you want to study baking, let's say in Canada, I needed to make sense. And that's fine. No one can judge you why you want to change fields, but then we need to we need to find the story here. What brought you from your past experiences to want to study this in Canada? So it has to make sense. Your program of studies, the courses that you're going to study, all of these are extremely important. So that's why also working with Usman and with his teams who know what is it that I look at with on the legal side are also advantages. So another key point is the finance. You need to have enough money to cover your tuition fees and to cover your cost of living. So a lot of times students forget about the cost of living and only see the tuition fees. So the cost of living includes your transportation, your accommodation, your food, your clothing, going out. All of these add up to your cost of living in Canada. So you have to show, ideally, if you want to increase the chances of approval, that you have enough money to cover all your tuition fees. So for year 1, year 2, year 3, if this is a bachelor degree, for example, and on top of that, that you have enough money to cover your life expenses.
Perfect. Yeah, and that was one of the question in the chat, like, yeah, what fund they need to prepare. So it's not only the school fees, it's really your living expenses for. Yeah. So if it's 3-year program, you have to have your living expenses cost for 3 years.
Exactly. And I want to say that the financing is nowhere written in the law. It's something that we see in practice, that actually immigration officers look very, very closely at your finance. And they look at not only the first year of study, but they look at the entire duration of your studies, plus the cost of living during those years.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for all those clarification. So I have a couple of other questions for you, Usman, still based on some of the questions that we have received. So you mentioned, yeah, what are the purpose of BT Global Access? But a lot of people come, some have friends, families, but some don't. So does BT Global Access help upon arrival in Canada?
Yes, so as I said, we are all of us one-time international students, and now we are all proud Canadians. So we don't want any of you to experience the suffering that we went through, right? So our goal is to help you out, admission successfully. NAVA help you out with your visa application, and when you get here, maybe if you went over our social media, you could see sometimes we go and pick you up from the airport. That's one of the services that we do to make you feel welcome. And the second thing is, in terms of integration here, one thing is very important for you to get a job, even though NAVA made a very new information that even new to me in terms of work. Now I understand that a bit, but you still have to work at least 25 hours. So the starting point for that is you having a very good resume, because sometimes the resume format that we use in Gambia or anywhere in Africa is way different from the way that we use here in Canada. So we help you out. We work with professionals to help you out to make sure your resume will be able to get you a job. And the second thing also we provide is networking opportunities. Canada is all about networking, people you know, the companies that you keep. So we also help you out in those as well. So if you have any other immigration issue as well, of course, NAVA is here to help you out. And then as long as you are here, if you have any issue with the school or with your immigration, anything that you need, we are always here to help you out from A to Z. So you can always count on us along the journey.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and so you mentioned, yeah, all the different services. And in terms of, because like I think we all understood that you need to have your finances ready to come to Canada. So in terms of the services for legal college application, can the students do multiple payments? How is the process?
Yeah. So it's always We discuss, as we said, is case by case basis. So we discuss with the clients what's their need, what's their finances. So they can pay by installment. So it's they can pay by installment anytime. That will depend on our discussion, on our arrangement with the student. But yes, they can always pay by installment.
Okay. And can they get a refund if the application for the study permit is denied?
So we have two packages. That's the gold one and the platinum one. So the platinum one, those ones are non-refundable because these are the costs that we pay because we do the full service package. That means we take care of your admission process. The fees that we pay for it are non-refundable. The second one is your visa fee is also included, so you don't need to go to Dakar or Senegal to do the visa submission. Nava will do that on your behalf. So those fees we pay to immigration is non-refundable. Biometrics, these are like fingerprints that you need to do. Those fees are non-refundable. The fees that we pay Nava. So many people sometimes call me from Gambia. Oh, bro, what about you do the application process? When the visa is approved, you pay me. I'm like, what? So it doesn't work like that in Canada. So I have to like pay the lawyers like upfront, like I have to pay them upfront, and those fees are non-refundable. And also the document processing also is non-refundable. So in terms of the other package, which is the platinum one, we have services for like airport pickup or for accommodation or for ATIP and all those things. So the services that we don't use, for example, airport pickup or drop you off from the airport to your college one time, those fees are refundable. Or accommodation, if you pay ahead of time, those fees are refundable as well. Yeah. So as I said, it's also case by case basis. So that's why we talk to the clients and we discuss with them all the options that are available to them as well. You are mute, eh?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Perfect. So yeah, we have 40 minutes left. 40, yeah. 20 minutes left already, actually. Sorry, it's 1:40. So we'll go through some of the questions.
Patricia, I have gone through some of the questions if you want.
Okay.
I will, while talking about the fees, Usman, this question may be for you. We have a guest who is asking, what will be the fees for a master's program?
We have two fees, as I said, the gold package and platinum package. So the gold package is $2,850. So if it's masters, so the application fee is you pay $350, $350 to start with. So if it's masters, you add $200 to that, so it's $550. So technically, it's going to be $3,050 if it's a masters, all inclusive. The only difference is $200 extra. So if it's a platinum one, that is $3,700. The only difference there is the platinum one, it included airport pickup, it includes 1 week accommodation, and then it includes food and accommodation and stuff. So that's why. But apart from that, everything remained the same. So it includes your admission fee, as I said in the beginning. It includes the visa fee, it includes biometric, it includes the lawyer fee, it includes processing of the document. So we break all this down for you way ahead of time. So when you fill out the application form, the system is automated. You're going to receive an email from us with the breakdown of all this cost before you even pay the dime. And then when we call you during our consultation with you, we will break it down for you, and then we'll discuss the payment installment and how it goes before you even do anything. Yeah, I hope that's clear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Patricia, do you want me to take the question about the refusal? I think we have two guests here who mentioned having had their study permits refused, and they want to understand how to tackle.
Yes.
So if you look at the chat, they have mentioned that they were rejected twice. And the reason was 1, insufficient documentation, and 2, insufficient financial resources. This is not a surprise to me because most of the refusal are based on these grounds. There is a lot of First of all, it's about me having a discussion with you to understand what documentation you have provided in your applications. Then I want to know what you have included in application number 1 and what was the difference with application number 2. Then I'm going to see if there was any lack of documentation. That's for the first argument that the officer has made. Number 2, we're going to look at the finance. So we're going to look very closely at how much was the tuition fees per year, what was the duration of your study, and how much funds did you show? Monsieur Baboukar, can you please put yourself on mute, please? Thank you very much. So the first step is for me to review your application that were submitted and to see if it's even worth it to reapply or to ask for reconsideration. Reconsideration is usually something that we do very quickly after the refusal is received. We do not wait 1 month, 2 months to then wake up and do a reconsideration. So to answer your question, I need to talk to you. I need to see what was submitted. Then we need to talk about, can you provide any additional documents? Can you provide different documents? And then see if we can either do a reconsideration or reapply for a new study permit from scratch.
Perfect. Thank you for answering that.
So somebody's saying I'm not getting the voice. Is that
I have answered that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Sorry, Patricia, proceed. Yeah.
No, I just want to open the floor. So if anyone have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question, or put it in the chat if you prefer.
Yeah, I see another question, Patricia, that could be good for Usman, maybe. There is someone who apparently got refused the first time admission into a school, and they would like to know what they should or could do now.
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing usually we do is to us, as I said, we have to get, before we get to NAVA, we have to get you an admission first. So the first thing I would like to know is, are you still maintaining the same time? When is the next intake? So are you going to maintain the same letter of admission, or you need a new admission? So if you need a new admission, you have a choice. So either you can, we'll advise you to just, if you still want to maintain the school, you just get to the school and ask them to defer the program for you, so you can have a new letter of admission. So then after receiving that, then we can refer the case to NAVA, and then she can review your immigration process and then advise you on what's the next thing to do.
And does it have any consequence for them that they were refused the first time admission into a school?
No, for the school part, no, that's not a problem. The only thing is the visa part. So,
okay. I saw another question with regards to finance. That's a question that comes a few times, so I'm gonna tackle this one. Hello, NAVA, greetings. I would like to ask, what is the financial requirement for a 1-year program that costs $10,000? So the tuition, what I'm understanding is that the tuition fees is $10,000, and that's a 1-year program. So on average, the cost of living is about $1,000 per month at least. So if we want to even look, let's say your cost of living is also $1,000. So your cost for 1 year, tuition fees plus cost of living, is around $20,000. To make sense, you need approximately to show 3 times this amount. So I will say around $60,000, $70,000 minimum on your bank account. And the reason is because an immigration officer will say, well, why this young person or their parents will spend half of all their money into coming to Canada to study 1 year? How much impact will that study have on these students' life in order for them to spend maybe even more than the entire net worth in studying in Canada? So that's how you should think and calculate your financing.
So I just want to just a follow up now with that. So if you say in the bank account, should it be on the student's bank account or the sponsor's bank account?
Doesn't matter. Any bank account, anybody that is willing to sponsor, to help financially the student. If the student is too young to have work experience and to have accumulated money, then obviously they could have the help of their parents, of an uncle, of a guarantor.
Okay, perfect. There was another question, how much it costs? I think this one we had answered for BT Global Access for master's degree. So yeah, the first admin fee is $350 for bachelor and $550 for master's degree. And that's only for starting the college application.
There was another question about getting a scholarship, Usman. Is it something that you can help with? Is it something that students can get access to?
Yeah, so we don't, as a company, we don't provide scholarship opportunity. But however, though, there are a lot of scholarship opportunities that are available for international students in Canada. This could be, it could be institutional based. For example, specific institution gives scholarships based on merits, based on your performance. Like if you can maintain your AA status, you might get a scholarship. Some also it based on the need. Like for example, if you are from a minority group, let's say Black, or you are indigenous, or you are disabled, there must be an opportunity, grants or scholarship opportunity. Or if you're coming for, let's say, masters, there are other masters program, a grant program for research for masters applicants. But these are usually, we post them on a social media website when we know about them, so students can apply on their own as well. And or you can go to the school's website and then find about this information, and then we can you can go from there. But if you need any specific scholarship, you can send us an email. I have a list of ones that I think you guys can apply, especially for master's program.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, because I think that's the difference between Canada and the US. Like first, like it's not like automatic that international student gets scholarship. And if I compare to the US, in my experience, there is less scholarship available for international students in Canada compared to the US. That's one thing. And the second thing, as Usman mentioned, it would be based on your merits, on your grades. It's not Canada as the government most of the time that would give you, let's say, scholarship, pay for your 3 years bachelor degree. No, this really, really rarely happen unless I'm mistaken. But most of the time it would be either the institution themselves or there will be a specific program, but it's a one-time. It's not like every month, every time the scholarship to bring internationals. No, that's not. And this is really different from the US. So that's why, yeah, if you have specific questions towards scholarship, we can look into what's available and we'll give you the information.
I have seen another question, a very good one that asks basically, who can be your sponsor? Can your sponsor be a family member? Can it be a non-related person? Can it even be your employer? To answer the question, the sponsor can be anybody as long as they know you. So if it's someone not even related anyway, not a family friend, not a uncle, how would I justify on the legal side that this person suddenly wants to sponsor, give you money to come to Canada? So if it's someone that is related by blood, we need to show that. We need birth certificates on both sides to demonstrate the relationship. If it's your employer, we draft the employer support letter that will demonstrate how long you have been working for them, what you have been doing, how good you are performing for them to want to sponsor you. And then getting that knowledge in Canada, what would you bring? What value would you bring to their company for them to want to sponsor you? If it's someone that is not related to you, is it someone that is a family friend? And your parents can also provide letters confirming that, which, by the way, we all drafted for you. You need to review it. You need to send it to the right person to sign. But that's, hopefully I answered the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Nava.
My pleasure.
And somebody's asking do you only accept students who are looking for school or job opportunities? Yes, we only focus on students. Of course, that's our main work because we don't want to be everywhere. However, though, because we work with NAVA, NAVA is a well-connected lawyer in Canada. She works with a lot of businesses and big corporations who are looking for workers outside. So sometimes when there are job openings, she will contact us and say, "Can you guys advertise this?" And then you could see that we post that on our social media platform, on our website, and to advertise for her. So now I don't know if you want to talk about that, the job part of whatever.
No, I mean, our company represents Canadian companies that sometimes have a need for workers. If we do need to recruit from overseas, then we will post it on our social medias, our law firm social media, BT Global social media. So just follow the pages, see what's going on, and follow the instructions for how to apply.
Okay, perfect. I think we answered this question. We had a question. Do you guys help in conference visa? Like someone wants to come to attend a conference?
Yeah, I answer and I said, yes, we do. So our law firm does all type of Canadian immigration matters. When you come to Canada, you need some type of permit. You need an authorization to be here. So we look at everything and we do help everybody. Usman, there is a question. Is it possible to apply for study permit with economics as your course and change it to nursing when you reach Canada?
Yes. Is it talking about the permit or the courses?
The courses, I think.
Okay. Yes, that's yes. You can you can do that. You can always feel free to change your course at any time when you're in Canada. Yes.
But to follow up with that question, so if the person changed program, do they need a different study permit or no?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about the answer. I will need to check it out. I believe that if it's in the same school, maybe not, but I wouldn't want to say something that I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, and we'll verify that and we'll communicate
Yeah.
answer to everyone.
Another question is still about the statements. So can we use 2 bank statements for study permit application? You can use as many statements as you can in order to show as much money as you can. So you can use your personal bank statement, we can add your sponsor bank statements, and we can add your parents' bank statements, just to give you an example.
And I just wanted to mention also if there are any French speakers, Nava speaks fully French, myself as well. So if you need, we can also help you in French. Even Usman speaks a bit of French.
Yeah.
Interesting question. Nava, do you help people who want to study in France? No, we do not. We help people who want to come to Canada, not the opposite. So you will need French immigration lawyer for that.
Yeah, because as someone who was born and raised in France, it's totally different from Canada, like the process.
Yeah. We have someone who just posted a refusal, a part of their refusal. That's not something that I'm going to look at in this webinar. That's something that you need to contact me personally for us to have a consultation and go over your refusal. And I have mentioned already the steps that we will go through in order to see what possible options you may have.
Yeah, for anyone who has like specific questions, you can, yeah, Nava, you already put your contact information. Feel free to contact her directly. I think, yeah.
And then no, I was gonna say, because now I'm always, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I was gonna ask like specifically like Africa, because we've been seeing a lot of refusal rate for sure coming from African students that I get. I don't know, based on your experience, do you see any pattern, or what can you advise them based on, I know all the points that you said that they need to look at, knowing the fact that so many African students actually get refused for Canada?
Yeah, well, I think first of all is a lack of information. A lot of people think that just going online and completing halfway a form and submitting it by yourself would get you a study permit. That's not the reality. The reality is that there is a lot of unknown, and yes, you have a lot of information online. It doesn't mean that it's sufficient to build a strong application. So just to give you an example, you have also a checklist online that you can go and find for free, publicly available on the immigration website. But the checklist that I will send you is double that checklist, because that's truly what in practice we'll see is necessary. So I will say that the main reason for refusal that we see is a lack of information on how much prepared you need to be document side. I see someone just doing that. That's the reality. You need to be prepared on the document side and on the financial side as well. You need to know that if you study I don't know, engineering, and tomorrow wants to study baking, again, it needs to make sense. So the application needs to be very robust to have all the chances of approval. When it comes to people from the Middle East, from Africa, the chances of refusal are even higher. And the reason is because a study permit remains a temporary application. So we are telling the government that you're coming only for the duration of your study permit, and then you're going to go back to your home country. But going back to Africa, the idea is that Canada is so much more developed, and you are dying to come to Canada to stay permanently. And that in Africa, you have absolutely nothing, and that for sure you will want to come and stay in Canada. So that's the reason why we need to even put more documents, more arguments into our legal submission letter to make it a very strong application.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Usman, and thank you, Nava, for answering the questions and providing more information. Once again, yeah, BT Global Access and Nava we work together to support you really during all the process. You are not alone. We're here to support you. You can contact us via our form online. So that's btglobalaccess.com. You can also send us an email at info@btglobalaccess.com. And if it's anything specifically regarding immigration, you can contact Nava at immigration@navaelmilawyer.com. All the information are in the chat. Thanks again. We will follow up. So with some of the questions, we'll send you some information. I will also send you a quick survey, if you don't mind, by tomorrow, just to know if you are satisfied, if you have any subject that you would like us to talk about to the next event. And yeah, that's it for us. Thank you so much, everyone. And have a great day or great evening, I guess, where you are. Thanks again for tuning in.
Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.